Anyway, so we're just going to take a little bit of time out now. If I could have Patty to just run through the PowerPoint for me, to just tell me a little bit about Mum, and then we'll go on with the show, and then it's all singing and dancing from there. Yes, you do. You did some amazing things. You have done some amazing things, besides having 6 amazing children, which is pretty amazing.
And they're also modest as well.
Don't forget the grandchildren.
So Beverly Irene Hogan.
Yes. And you forgot the grandchildren.
And the grandchildren. And the great-grandchildren.
The great-grandchildren.
And the partners that have been wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Beverly Irene Thorne was born in Queenscliff. Now, not many people know that. She's a Victorian. Born in Queenscliff Hospital, Victoria, in 1926. And her mum said the doctor was a little drunk, but she made it out anyway, safe and sound. Her father was stationed at Queenscliff Army Barracks, and her mum was a talented musician playing the piano in an orchestra in Melbourne. And she was playing one night at an officers' social, and grandfather went up to, who was Major Edward Thorne, and a highly decorated man, and we feel like we know him. Unfortunately, we lost him in 1942 on the Kokoda Trail, but he went up to Grandma and he said to Grandma, can I have a dance with you? And she said, well, I can't actually play piano and dance at the same time, but I'll have coffee with you later. So they got together after that. They married in Melbourne. This is Grandma and Grandpa. And they were married in Melbourne and moved to Queensland when Beverly, the light of their lives, was 5 years old. So this is the house that my mum lived in when she was 5 years old, when they moved to Brisbane. It's 296 Kelvin Grove Road. It's still there. And as you can see, just go back just 1 second, Pete. There's a little section there on the left. And my mum tells me that even as a tiny little girl, 5 or 6 years of age, she would get into that little section there where there's lots and lots of cars going up and down. It's a very busy place. And she would perform to the cars. It seemed that the stage, she was destined for the stage, I think. So the next is just a picture of sort of how it looks today. So it's a very busy intersection. So Mum was doing her little concert routine even at 5. She started school at Kelvin Grove Primary School in Brisbane. And at the age of 9, she was playing steel and Hawaiian guitar. So that's my grandfather. That's in civilian clothing. He's very highly decorated. He actually was invited to have dinner twice with the King and Queen of England because he was originally English, then came out here to serve to live in Australia and serve in the Australian Army. He was decorated in dispatches 5 times for his bravery, and I think possibly on the day when he died, he was doing exactly what he would normally do, right out front there with his men, and was shot by a sniper on the Kokoda Trail. Beverly's Major Edward Thorne. He was also a very talented musician who played guitar and bugle. And there is a story that I'm aware of, because I read it in a book the other day, where he's mentioned in a couple of books, where he was actually playing the bugle for playing the last post as they were burying one of the soldiers. And he said it was reported that 6 Japanese soldiers walked out of the forest and saw what was happening with my grandfather playing the last post. Did nothing, walked back into the forest, giving respect for that ceremony. But as I said, he was highly decorated. He saw the talent in his daughter. If the talent wasn't there, he was going to make sure the talent was there. Mum will tell you stories about having guitars almost thrown at her, but she didn't practice enough. But in a very short time, she was performing as part of a trio on stage. She also had her own radio program. Before she was a teenager, Mum was picked up from primary school. In primary school, she was picked up at 3:30 in a car, driven to the radio station, which is 4BC. And she would go on air and do 4BC Pals Club, where she would play and sing live for half an hour on the radio program. And she often took home bags and bags of, they used to have about 4 fan mail bags a day that they would take home. And on Saturdays then she would perform in a movie theatre as a guest artist. In those days they'd have an interval and then they'd have a guest artist performance. And and in movies in those days was big time. There'd be hundreds of fans there. And on Sundays then they would do a showboat. and sail down the Brisbane River on doing that. And either will do a country western or they'll do Hawaiian. So because Mum would play steel and also Hawaiian, is that acoustic guitar? Spanish guitar.